Hi YouTube, it's Dr. Henna again. This is a response video to GreenBeautyChannel's video, Why is your hair nappy? And she had a lot of really great points talking about the science behind our hair and what influences our hair texture. Where she talked about, the size and shape of your hair follicle, and she didn't really touch on the types of bonds in your hair that influence your hair texture, which is another key component. And she didn't talk so much about the genetics. She touched on the genetics a little bit, and since that's my background, I felt like I'd weigh in on that because this is something that I've actually thought about a lot, and I know some of you out there also have been wondering, like, why is it that we're the only people in the world with this kind of hair? Even though there's a range of textures within the curly, kinky spectrum, but still it's very unique. And I always wonder, like, there has to be some, like, with my, I'm a geneticist, so that's kind of, I've always go back to, like, okay, so what's the evolutionary advantage to having kinky, curly hair, this dry textured hair? And when you look at it, everything from our skin color to our hair texture and our eye color was adapted to the climates and the environments in Africa. Now, in Africa, especially sub-Saharan Africa, you have tropical, you have hot climate, and it's important to stay cool. You need protection from the sun, which is why, people from Africa are among the darkest on the earth because of the melanin, which is your body's natural SPF. It protects your body, your skin and your body from ultraviolet ray damage. Which is, the whole saying "black don't crack." That's where that comes from. It's because there's a lot of truth to it, because melanin protects your skin from wrinkles, from damage, which wrinkles are just UV ray damage to your skin cells. So, but our hair texture as well. When you look at hair on other animals, we call it fur. Like, look at your cat. Your cat has fur. Your dog has fur. Bears have fur. They all have this straight hair, which we see in people from other continents, and other ethnicities outside of Africa. And so, really, what is the purpose of fur? You have to ask yourself that. And the purpose of fur is to keep in heat, to keep the body warm. And with humans, it's the same thing, because you lose most of your heat through your head. I know we sweat and everything, and sweating is a way to cool off, but most of it is to help keep your whole body cool, but your head is where you lose most of your heat. And so it makes sense to have the largest concentration of hair or fur on your head. Now, when it's straight, it's fur. But in the case of curly, kinky hair, it has a different purpose. Because in Africa, you're not worried about freezing to death, typically. You're more worried about staying cool. And what does our hair do? It absorbs moisture very well. So it absorbs the sweat off of your body to help you cool off. And it also is able to, it takes a lot of moisture in order for it to become saturated, right? Because you think about it, when you get in the shower, you get your head under the water, and it takes how long for after your hair gets saturated with water for you to feel it on your scalp, So there's a reason behind all of that. Our hair was meant to help keep us cool, whereas straighter hair is, found among people that live in cooler climates outside of Africa. and it's to help keep them warm. So, because like I said, you lose most of your heat through your head. So if you're in a hot climate, you're going to want to be able to lose as much heat as possible. Whereas if you're in a cooler climate, you're going to want to keep in as much heat as possible. And also, even the structure of curly, kinky hair is actually different. You have the cuticle and the cortex, and but in in straight hair, you have another layer called the medulla, which helps in keeping in heat, and that part is totally absent in kinky curly hair for the most part. So so there's a real reason behind the texture of our hair. It's not just some misfortune, as some would see it, because they think that kinky curly hair is ugly, or they think it's a burden, or they think it's something negative. Whereas, like, just in Green Beauty Channel, in her video, she was talking about how beautiful and versatile and unique our hair is. And yes, it takes extra care, but the styles and the different ways to wear it are endless, and cannot be mimicked by any other any other hair texture. So I look at it as a plus. And like she said, when someone tells you you have nappy hair, tell them thank you, because just like a verse from the Bible always comes to mind when I think about our hair, even if you're not Christian or anything. But the idea that the hair is a crown, and when I see certain styles, certain natural hairstyles especially, the hair literally looks like a crown, and the man or woman looks like royalty to me. So anyway, back to the science. Another important point about the origins of our hair and our texture and everything like that. There was this one documentary I was watching, and it was talking about Neanderthals and how they went extinct, and do we know what happened to them, and what really happened when Cro-Magnon man interacted with Neanderthals in Europe and elsewhere. And the theory now is that we didn't just wipe them out, or we didn't just outcompete them, but that our ancestors actually interbred with them, and this is present in our DNA. And so you find people that are of basically any ethnicity outside of Africa. Generally, they have a higher percentage of Neanderthal DNA, because the Neanderthals were outside of Africa. They're basically humans that were adapted to the Ice Age. So they were squatter to help keep in body heat. They were bulkier, and they have certain physical characteristics that differ from us. They have straight hair because, like I said, they're adapted to the Ice Age. So, in that cold climate, you're going to need straight hair. You're going to need fur on your head to help keep your body warm. So, and I'm sure they're, lighter in complexion than the Africans that, the humans that came out of Africa. So, the lighter complexions, that's also an adaptation to the cooler climates with less sunlight, because vitamin D and folic acid are really important in childbirth. So you need to be lighter in complexion in order to absorb as much sunlight as possible to produce those things for the baby, for the growing baby. And so it's just interesting, because in this documentary they were showing how different people, and they had a college classroom or whatever, and they asked all the students what they thought about how much Neanderthal DNA they thought they had, and lo and behold, the white students, they had more Neanderthal DNA than the Asians and the young black woman in the class, she had the lowest. She was African American, so and with African Americans, there's about 12% admixture of European DNA on average in the African American population. So the fact that she had some Neanderthal DNA isn't surprising, because she probably has some European ancestry somewhere down the line. But I'm just saying all that to say that the characteristics that we see in different groups of people around the world, like lighter skin tones, straighter hair, whatever, they have evolutionary purposes, depending on where they're from. So there's a reason you and your ancestors were born with the kinky, curly, or nappy hair and the darker skin, because you were adapted to that climate and to that region. And that's why when you go to other places, people of African descent in colder climates, northern climates, a lot of times suffer from vitamin D deficiency, because their darker skin doesn't allow as much sunlight into their bodies, and so they need the darker skin protects them from the sun more, but then they need more sunlight in order to produce sufficient amounts of vitamin D, unless you take supplements. So whereas the Europeans, native Europeans, wherever they are, they could get the same amount of sunlight and be fine and have enough vitamin D produced. So it's just things like that. Anyway, back to the hair. That's all I had to say. There's actually genetics, involved, as well as, it's basically our environment shaping us. And there is a real purpose for your hair being the texture that it is, your skin being the color that it is. So I hope that made sense. I tend to ramble sometimes, so if you have any other questions about genetics or biology or anything like that, in general, or about our hair or whatever, just let me know. Shoot me a message on my inbox, comment below, whatever, and have a great day. All right, bye.